She's in the clinic on the east side. Target confirmed. Execute tonight. Chai Kim-young read the message 3 times before accepting what his organization was ordering him to do: kill a doctor. Not a rival gang member. Not a corrupt official who'd betrayed them. Not even a witness who could testify against their operations. A doctor. A civilian. A woman named Dr. Tabitha Robinson, who ran a free clinic in one of Chicago's most dangerous neighborhoods and had apparently made the catastrophic mistake of treating the wrong patient. Chai Kim had been killing people for the Kim family organization for 8 years. Since he was 19 years old, and his father had decided the youngest son would be more useful as an enforcer than as a legitimate businessman like his brothers. He was good at it, efficient, clean, professional. He didn't enjoy the work, but he didn't agonize over it either. It was a job. People who crossed the organization died. That was the business model. But he'd never been ordered to kill a doctor before. Why, he'd texted back to his handler. She treated a cop who got shot during our warehouse operation. He identified 3 of our people before dying. She's a witness to his testimony. Liability. Eliminate. So Dr. Tabitha Robinson had to die because she'd done her job. Tried to save someone's life, happened to overhear a dying cop statement, became a person who knew too much to be allowed to live. Chai Kim packed his equipment with practiced efficiency. Suppressed handgun, backup weapon, tactical gear under civilian clothes, fake credentials in case he needed to talk his way past security. He'd researched the target thoroughly. 34 years old, Johns Hopkins medical degree, trauma surgeon who'd left a prestigious hospital position to run a free clinic in Englewood, one of Chicago's most violent neighborhoods. No family in the area, no security beyond basic locks, routine that made her predictable and vulnerable. She'd be easy to kill. Walk into the clinic after hours when she was doing paperwork, quick double tap to the head, walk out before anyone noticed. Standard operation. Except when Chai Kim arrived at the East Englewood Free Clinic at 11 p.m., planning to enter through the back door that his surveillance had identified as poorly secured, he heard something that made him pause. Someone was screaming in pain inside the building. Not screaming in fear. Screaming in agony, the kind of sound that came from serious injury, from someone dying badly. Chai Kim recognized that sound. He'd heard it hundreds of times. Someone inside that clinic was critically wounded. He moved to the window, looked inside. And saw Dr. Tabitha Robinson, his target, the woman he was supposed to kill tonight, bent over an operating table where someone was bleeding profusely from what looked like multiple gunshot wounds. She was working with focused intensity, her hands moving with practiced precision, calling out instructions to someone Chai Kim couldn't see. "I need more gauze, his liver's lacerated and I can't get the bleeding controlled. We're going to lose him if I can't repair this vessel." The response came from a younger woman who appeared with supplies. "We don't have enough O-negative blood for a transfusion if he needs it. Then he doesn't get to need it. I'm stopping this bleeding now." Chai Kim watched Dr. Robinson work on the dying patient with the kind of controlled emergency response he associated with combat medics, not civilian doctors. She was good. Moving fast but precisely, making decisions in seconds, clearly trying to save someone who by all medical logic should have been dead already. The patient's face turned slightly, and Chai Kim's entire world stopped. The person Dr. Robinson was trying to save was Minho. His brother. His younger brother, who was supposed to be in Seoul working for the family's legitimate businesses, not bleeding out on an operating table in a Chicago clinic. Chai Kim was through the door before conscious thought caught up with his body. Gun drawn, moving on pure instinct and training, clearing the clinic's back rooms in seconds before bursting into the surgery area where Dr. Robinson was working on his brother. She looked up, saw him, saw the gun, and didn't even flinch. "If you're here to rob us, take whatever you want from the front desk and leave. If you're here to kill me, wait 15 minutes until I've stabilized this patient. If you're here because you know him," she gestured to Minho, "then help me save his life by getting the hell out of my operating space so I can work. That's my brother." Dr. Robinson's hands never stopped moving. "Then your brother is dying from 3 gunshot wounds, massive internal bleeding, and approximately 10 minutes away from complete organ failure if I can't repair the damage. So unless you have surgical skills I don't know about, get out of my light and let me work. Chai Kim lowered his gun, his training warring with emotions he hadn't felt in years. Fear. Helplessness. The desperate need to do something while watching his brother die. What do you need? He asked. I need you to not shoot me while I'm trying to save his life. Everything else I can handle. She was tying off a blood vessel, moving to the next crisis. Actually, can you see if there's any O-negative blood in the refrigerator in the back room? I sent Keisha to check, but she's a volunteer, not medical staff. If there's any, bring it. All of it. Chai Kim found 3 units of O-negative blood in the refrigerator. Brought them back to where Dr. Robinson was now actively performing surgery on his brother's abdomen, working with a level of skill and focus that he'd only seen in military field hospitals. Good. Start the transfusion, Keisha will show you how. She didn't look up. And if you're the praying type, now would be a good time. Because your brother's injuries are about as bad as they get without being immediately fatal, and I'm performing trauma surgery in a free clinic that barely has adequate equipment. We need luck and prayer and every skill I've got or he's not surviving this. For the next 90 minutes, Chai Kim watched Dr. Tabitha Robinson fight death itself for his brother's life. She was brilliant. Moving between repairs with practiced efficiency, making split-second decisions about which injuries to address first, somehow keeping Minho alive despite blood loss that should have killed him 3 times over. She talked while she worked, partly to herself, partly to Keisha, partly to keep Minho conscious when he started coming out of the shock. Stay with me. I know it hurts. I know you want to pass out. But I need you conscious so I know you're still fighting. Talk to me. Tell me your name. Minho, his brother whispered. Minho Young. Okay, Minho Young. I'm Dr. Robinson. I'm fixing the damage someone did to your insides. You're going to survive this, but you need to keep fighting. Can you do that? Hurts. I know. But pain means you're alive. Focus on that. She worked through complications that would have overwhelmed most surgeons. A lacerated liver that kept bleeding. Damaged intestines that needed repair. A bullet lodged near his spine that she couldn't safely remove without better imaging equipment. But she kept him alive. Through skill and determination and sheer refusal to let her patient die. At 2:30 a.m., she finally stepped back from the table. He's stable. Barely. He needs a real hospital, proper imaging, probably additional surgery. But he's going to survive the next few hours, which is more than I could guarantee when you brought him in. I didn't bring him in. Then who did? I don't know. I came here to. Chai Kim stopped, realizing he'd been about to admit he'd come to kill her. Dr. Robinson looked at him carefully. Really looked at him for the first time since he'd burst into her clinic with a gun. You came here to kill me, she said flatly. The gun, the tactical gear under civilian clothes, the way you cleared the building before entering this room, that's not concerned brother behavior. That's professional killer behavior. She wasn't wrong. And she apparently wasn't stupid. Yes. I was sent to kill you. You're a witness to testimony that could damage my organization. You were classified as a liability to be eliminated. And now? Now I'm very confused about why someone shot my brother and who brought him to your clinic. Chai Kim looked at Minho, unconscious but breathing steadily, bandaged and sutured and alive against all odds. How did he end up here? Anonymous tip. Someone called saying there was a critically wounded man in the alley behind my clinic. I found him, got him inside, started working. She was cleaning her hands methodically. This happens sometimes. People who need medical care but can't go to hospitals because they'd be arrested or identified dump wounded people at my clinic. Usually I can stabilize them and arrange transport to actual hospitals. Your brother's injuries were too severe for that. He needed immediate surgery or he'd die before an ambulance arrived. So you performed trauma surgery in a free clinic. I performed the surgery I was trained to perform wherever I was when a patient needed it. That's the job. She was exhausted. Chai Kim could see it in her posture, in the way she moved. She'd just done 90 minutes of intensive emergency surgery after probably working all day at the clinic. But she was still functional, still professional, still acting like saving his brother's life was just normal work. "Thank you," he said. "For saving him. For not giving up when most doctors would have. Most doctors would have sent him to a trauma center because they'd have better equipment and support staff. I didn't have that option, so I worked with what I had." She looked at Minho. "He needs to be in a hospital. Real hospital, with imaging equipment and post-operative care. I've done what I can, but he needs more than I can provide here. Hospitals ask questions. My brother's injuries would trigger police reports. So you'd rather he die than risk police involvement? I'd rather find a way to get him care without creating legal complications that endanger both him and my family." Dr. Robinson was quiet for a moment, clearly processing the implications of who Chai Kim and his brother were. "You're criminals. Both of you. Whatever organization sent you to kill me, your brother's involved with it too. My brother's supposed to be in Seoul working for the family's legitimate businesses. I don't know why he's in Chicago or who shot him." Chai Kim looked at her directly. "But yes. We're criminals. I was sent to kill you because you witnessed a dying cop's testimony. That's what my family does, we eliminate problems and witnesses. And now I've saved your brother's life. Does that change whether you're going to kill me?" "Yes. Because I can't kill the person who just saved Minho. That would be..." He struggled for the word. "Wrong. Even by my profession's flexible standards. So I'm safe because I happened to be treating your brother when you arrived to murder me. That's a very thin margin of survival. It's the margin you have. I won't kill you. But I can't guarantee my organization won't send someone else once they realize I failed to complete the assignment." Dr. Robinson processed that. "So you're saying I need to disappear or I'll be killed by whoever you work for? Or you need protection until I can convince my organization that eliminating you creates more problems than it solves?" Chai Kim made a decision based entirely on debt and the strange code of honor he'd somehow maintained despite 8 years of killing people. "I owe you my brother's life. That debt is substantial. I'll protect you from my organization's retaliation. But you need to help me understand why Minho is in Chicago and who shot him, because that information might be the leverage I need to keep you alive. I don't know anything beyond what I told you. Anonymous call, wounded man in my alley, emergency surgery. That's all I have. Then we figure it out together. Because someone either tried to kill my brother or someone wanted him brought to you specifically, and either option suggests complications I don't understand yet." Dr. Robinson looked at him, this man who'd come to murder her and was now promising to protect her because she'd saved his brother. "This is the strangest night of my life. And I've had some very strange nights working in Englewood. Welcome to my world. Where nothing makes sense and the person you're supposed to kill ends up being someone you owe your family to." She laughed, exhausted and slightly hysterical. "Okay. Fine. Let's figure out why your brother got shot and how to keep both of us alive. But first, I need to set up proper monitoring for him because he's still critical and I need to know immediately if he starts declining." Chai Kim helped her set up monitoring equipment that was surprisingly sophisticated for a free clinic. While they worked, he revised every assumption he'd made about Dr. Tabitha Robinson based on the intelligence file his organization had provided. The file had said she was a naive idealist who'd abandoned a lucrative career to work with the poor. Someone who could be eliminated easily because she had no protection, no connections to powerful people, no resources beyond her medical skills. The reality was far more complicated. Dr. Robinson was brilliant. Johns Hopkins trauma surgery training, experience that suggested military or emergency medicine background, skills that let her perform complex surgery under field conditions. She was also strategic. Her clinic had equipment that shouldn't be affordable for a free operation, suggesting funding sources beyond just donations. And she was observant. She'd correctly identified Chai Kim as a professional killer within seconds of seeing him. She was dangerous in ways that had nothing to do with violence and everything to do with competence. Why did you leave Johns Hopkins to run a free clinic in Englewood? He asked while they monitored Minho's vital signs. Because Johns Hopkins was full of politics and ego and patients who could afford care anywhere. I wanted to do medicine that mattered, treat people who had no other options, work in communities that are underserved by every system including healthcare. She adjusted in 4-drip. Plus I'm originally from Chicago. Englewood specifically. I grew up 3 blocks from here. Coming back to serve my community felt right. Your community is one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in America. You're not concerned about safety? I'm concerned about lots of things. But fear doesn't stop me from doing work that needs doing. She looked at him. Though having a professional killer show up to murder me is a new concern I hadn't specifically planned for. If it helps, I've decided not to murder you. So that particular concern is resolved. Except for the part where your organization will send someone else when you don't complete the assignment. I'll handle that. You just focus on keeping my brother alive. They fell into an uneasy partnership over the next few hours. Dr. Robinson monitored Minho's condition, made adjustments to his care, explained what she was doing in medical terminology that Chai-Kim only partially understood. Chai-Kim provided security, contacted his organization to report the complication that prevented immediate completion of his assignment, and tried to figure out who had shot his brother and why. The sun was rising when Minho finally woke up enough to talk coherently. Hyung, he whispered, using the Korean term for older brother. What are you doing here? Saving your life apparently. What are you doing in Chicago with 3 bullets in you? I was investigating something. For father. There are rumors the family's Chicago operations are being compromised by someone inside the organization. He sent me to investigate quietly. Minho's voice was weak but clear. I found evidence. Met with someone who had information. Then someone started shooting. I ran. Ended up in an alley. Someone called an ambulance but I blacked out before it arrived. Someone called this clinic, Dr. Robinson corrected. You were brought here, not to a hospital. Why? That's what we're trying to figure out. Chai-Kim leaned closer. Who were you meeting? Who had the information about the Chicago operations? Detective. Chicago PD. He'd been investigating our organization, had evidence of the internal betrayal. Was willing to trade information for protection. Minho closed his eyes. I think he's dead. I think whoever shot me killed him too. The cop who died here, Dr. Robinson said quietly. The one whose testimony I witnessed. Was he your contact? Maybe. I don't know. Everything after the shooting is blurry. Chai-Kim felt pieces clicking into place. His brother had been meeting with a cop who was investigating the Jung organization. That cop had been killed during a warehouse operation, the same warehouse operation that had prompted Chai-Kim's assassination order against Dr. Robinson. Someone inside the organization had tried to kill both Minho and the detective to prevent them from exposing the internal betrayal. And someone else, possibly someone loyal to the family, had brought Minho to Dr. Robinson's clinic for treatment. This wasn't random, Chai-Kim said. This was internal organization politics. Someone tried to kill you to prevent you from reporting your investigation findings. Someone else saved you by bringing you here. Great, Minho muttered. So I'm caught in the middle of a succession war I didn't even know was happening. We both are. And Dr. Robinson is now involved because she saved your life and witnessed the detective's testimony. Chai-Kim looked at her. Which means the person who ordered me to kill you is probably the same person who tried to kill Minho. Who ordered the hit? Minho asked. Our uncle. Father's brother. He's been running Chicago operations for 20 years. And he sent you to eliminate a witness to testimony that would expose internal betrayal. Testimony from a cop I was meeting with to investigate that exact betrayal. Minho laughed weakly. Uncle's the one betraying the family. And he tried to kill both of us to cover it up. The logic was undeniable. Their uncle was betraying the Jung family organization, had tried to eliminate both the detective investigating him and Minho, who was close to exposing him, and had sent Chai-Kim to kill Dr. Robinson to erase the witness to the detective's final testimony. "So what do we do?" Dr. Robinson asked. "Because I'm currently harboring a criminal family member who was shot during an internal power struggle, being protected by a hitman who was sent to kill me, and apparently caught in the middle of organized crime succession drama. I'd like a plan that results in me surviving this. The plan is we expose Uncle's betrayal to Father, prove Minho was investigating loyally, and convince Father that eliminating you creates more problems than letting you live," Chai-Kim said. "But that requires Minho being well enough to travel to Seoul and testify, which won't be possible for weeks given his injuries. So we wait here while your uncle figures out I didn't kill Dr. Robinson and sends more people to finish both jobs," Minho said. "Great plan. We don't wait. We move you somewhere secure, get Dr. Robinson protection, and I go to Seoul to handle Uncle directly." Chai-Kim was already planning. "But first, we need to make sure you survive the next 48 hours because you're still critically injured. I can keep him alive if I have proper supplies and equipment," Dr. Robinson said. "But this clinic isn't secure enough for someone actively being hunted by organized crime. We need a safer location. I have a safe house. Medical equipment? I can acquire what I need. Give me a list of what you have, I'll tell you what's missing." They spent the next hour planning the logistics of moving a critically wounded patient, establishing a secure recovery location, and protecting Dr. Robinson from the assassination attempts that would inevitably come when Chai-Kim's uncle realized she was still alive. Somewhere in that planning, Chai-Kim realized he'd gone from assassin to protector in less than 12 hours. All because the woman he'd been sent to kill had instead saved the person he cared about most in the world. Life was strange that way. Subscribe to see what happens when a hitman becomes a protector and a doctor becomes the most important person in an organized crime succession war. Comment where you're watching from, and tell me, would you save someone's life even knowing it might get you killed? This story is just beginning. Moving Minho to Chai-Kim's safe house was complicated by the fact that he was still critically injured, needed continuous monitoring, and couldn't be taken to a hospital without triggering police reports. Dr. Robinson solved that problem with the same practical efficiency she brought to everything else. She essentially converted part of the safe house into a functional recovery room, bringing in equipment from her clinic, setting up monitoring systems, creating a space where she could provide hospital-level care without the actual hospital. "This is better than my clinic," she said, reviewing the setup. "You have more space, better power systems, and I don't have to worry about gang violence interrupting treatment." "My uncle owns half the gang violence in Englewood," Chai-Kim replied. "If he figures out where we are, this safe house becomes a target. Then don't let him figure it out." "I'm trying. But he's not stupid. When I don't report completing the assassination, he'll assume something went wrong. He'll send people to investigate." "How long before that happens?" 12 to 24 hours. Maybe less if he's paranoid." Dr. Robinson checked Minho's vitals, still stable, improving slowly. "Then we have maybe a day to figure out how to handle this situation before it becomes a crisis. I need to go to Seoul. Talk to my father directly, expose Uncle's betrayal before he can spin a narrative that makes me look disloyal." Chai-Kim looked at his brother, at the woman who'd saved him. "But I can't leave you both here unprotected." "So bring protection. You're part of a criminal organization, you must have people you trust." "In Seoul, yes. In Chicago, everyone reports to Uncle. I can't trust them." "Then we need to get Minho well enough to travel to Seoul within the next few days." "Can that happen?" She directed the question to Dr. Robinson. "Medically? No. He needs at least 2 weeks of recovery before he's stable enough for international travel. Probably more like 3 weeks before he can actually testify coherently without risking complications." She adjusted his "for." "But if we're talking survival versus medical ideal, he could maybe handle a private medical transport in a week if absolutely necessary. It would be risky and he'd need continuous medical supervision during the flight." "Can you provide that supervision?" "You're asking if I'll fly to Seoul with you to keep your brother alive so he can testify about your uncle's betrayal?" "Yes. That's exactly what I'm asking. Dr. Robinson was quiet for a long moment. I have a clinic full of patients who depend on me. A community that needs consistent medical care. I can't just abandon that for weeks. I can fund temporary staffing for your clinic. Hire doctors to cover while you're gone. Whatever you need to ensure your patients are cared for. And in exchange, I become even more involved in organized crime family politics by traveling to Seoul as your brother's personal physician. In exchange, you stay alive because you're valuable to me and my father rather than being a liability that needs elimination. Chai Kim was being blunt because Dr. Robinson seemed to respond better to honesty than to manipulation. My uncle will keep trying to kill you as long as you're a witness to that detective's testimony. But if you're providing medical care that keeps my brother alive to testify, you become someone father wants protected. That's the best security I can offer. She processed that logic. So my survival depends on being useful to your family. Your survival depends on being more valuable alive than dead. Which you currently are, because Minho needs you. And when he doesn't need me anymore? When he's recovered and testified? Then you've earned favor with my father by saving his son's life. That favor has value, you can use it for protection, for resources, for whatever you need. Father honors debts. This is insane. This is reality. You saved my brother. That action has consequences, some of them protective, some of them dangerous. I'm trying to maximize the protective consequences and minimize the dangerous ones. Dr. Robinson looked at Minho, still unconscious but stable. He's really your brother? Not just some organization member you're obligated to help. He's my actual younger brother. Same parents, grew up together. We were close before father decided I'd be more useful as an enforcer than a legitimate businessman. Chai Kim paused. Minho's the reason I've stayed sane these past 8 years. Knowing he was safe in Seoul, working legitimate business, not involved in the violence. Finding him shot in your clinic was. He couldn't finish. Terrifying, Dr. Robinson finished. Finding someone you love almost dead is terrifying. I understand that. Do you? Have you lost someone? I've lost dozens of someones. I work in Englewood. I treat gunshot victims almost daily. Most of them die despite my best efforts. Your brother survived because he got lucky and because I happened to have the specific skills needed for his specific injuries. She checked his bandages. But yes, I understand what it means to be terrified of losing someone you love. That's why I became a trauma surgeon, to fight that terror with skill and knowledge. Chai Kim studied her. You're not what I expected when I came to kill you. What did you expect? Someone naive. Idealistic. Easy to eliminate because they wouldn't see the threat coming. He shrugged. Instead, you're competent, strategic, and you correctly identified me as a professional killer within seconds. You're dangerous in ways that have nothing to do with violence. Being underestimated is a survival skill when you're a black woman working in communities where violence is normal. People assume I'm naive or helpless or not smart enough to recognize threats. That assumption keeps me safe because threats don't take me seriously until it's too late. Smart. Necessary. She returned to monitoring equipment. So. Your plan is, we keep your brother alive for a week, then I fly to Seoul with you to provide medical supervision during testimony that exposes your uncle's betrayal. In exchange, I get protection from your father and hopefully survive this situation I never wanted to be part of. That's the plan. It's a terrible plan with approximately 1,000 ways it could go wrong. You have a better suggestion? Not currently. Which is why I'm agreeing to this terrible plan. She looked at him directly. But understand something, I'm doing this because I don't want to die, not because I approve of your family or your profession. I'm a doctor. I save lives. You're a hitman. You end them. We're fundamentally incompatible. Agreed. But currently our incompatibility is less important than our mutual interest in surviving. Fine. Then let's focus on survival. Starting with, what happens when your uncle sends people to find out why you haven't reported completing my assassination? That happened 18 hours later. Chai Kim was sleeping in 3-hour shifts, maintaining constant watch rotation, when his phone buzzed with an alert from the security system he'd established around the safe house. 4 vehicles. Approaching from different directions. Professional formation suggesting coordinated assault. His uncle had sent a team. "We have company," he told Dr. Robinson, who was monitoring Minho's recovery. 4 vehicles, probably 12 to 16 people. "They're coming for both of us." "Can we defend this location? Against that many?" "Not without risking Minho in crossfire. We need to evacuate. He can't be moved. His condition's still too fragile for transport. He'll definitely die if we stay here and they breach the safe house." Chai Kim was already pulling weapons from concealment, preparing for defense. How long can he survive without active monitoring? Maybe 2 hours if nothing goes wrong. Less if complications develop. Then we have 2 hours to deal with the assault team and return before he's at risk. Dr. Robinson looked at him like he was insane. "You're planning to fight 16 people alone?" "I'm planning to prevent them from reaching this safe house." "There's a difference." He handed her a handgun. "Do you know how to use this?" "I'm a doctor, not a—" "Do you know how to use this?" he repeated. "Point and shoot. Safety off. Don't shoot the person I'm trying to protect." "Yes, I know the basics." "Good. Stay with Minho. If anyone gets past me and enters this room, shoot them. Don't hesitate, don't warn them, just shoot." He moved toward the door. "I'll handle the assault team." "You're insane." "I'm motivated." "There's a difference." Chai Kim left the safe house through a concealed exit, positioned himself to intercept the assault team before they could breach the building. He had advantages they didn't. Knowledge of the terrain, defensive position, and the kind of cold tactical thinking that came from 8 years of professional violence. The assault team had numbers and coordination. But they were expecting to find a single hitman who'd failed an assignment, not someone defending his brother's life. The fight lasted 17 minutes. Chai Kim used every advantage: concealment, positioning, tactical surprise, and absolute willingness to kill anyone who threatened his brother. He took down 6 of them in the first 5 minutes through sniper work from elevated position. The remaining 10 tried to breach the safe house and met carefully positioned explosives that Chai Kim had installed as defensive measures. When it was over, 4 were dead, 8 were wounded seriously enough to require immediate evacuation, and 0 had made it past the safe house's outer defenses. Chai Kim returned to find Dr. Robinson holding the handgun he'd given her with white-knuckled intensity, looking at him like he was something terrifying. "You killed 4 people in less than 20 minutes. I prevented 16 people from killing us. The 4 who died made poor tactical decisions." He checked Minho's vitals, still stable. Dr. Robinson had kept him alive despite the violence happening outside. "We need to move now. This location is compromised." "Where?" "I have another safe house. Better secured." "Your clinic's medical equipment?" "Already packed. I started moving it when you left to fight them because I assumed we'd need to evacuate regardless of outcome." Smart. Practical. Competent under pressure. They moved Minho using a medical transport setup that Dr. Robinson improvised, transferred him to the new safe house without complications, and re-established the recovery room with better security. But Chai Kim knew the clock was ticking. His uncle now knew he'd refused the assassination order and had actively defended the target. That made him a traitor to the organization, subject to execution same as anyone who betrayed the family. "I need to go to Seoul now," he told Dr. Robinson after they'd secured the new location. "Can't wait a week. Uncle knows I've turned against him. He'll move to discredit me with father before I can present evidence. Minho can't travel yet." "I know. But you can. Come to Seoul with me now, testify about what Minho told you regarding the investigation. I'll provide security for both of you. The organization has loyal people who'll protect you on my orders. You want me to leave your critically injured brother here with people I don't know while I fly to Seoul to testify about organized crime internal politics I don't understand. I want you to help me save both our lives by exposing Uncle's betrayal before he kills us all." Dr. Robinson looked at Minho, at Chai Kim, at the impossible situation she'd been pulled into by the simple act of saving a patient's life. This is the worst medical ethics dilemma I've ever faced. Is that a yes? That's it. Give me 2 hours to train your people on Minho's care requirements and make sure they won't kill him through incompetence. Then yes. I'll come to Seoul. Thank you. Don't thank me. This is survival, not altruism. I'm doing what's necessary to stay alive. Sometimes those are the same thing. They flew to Seoul 12 hours later on a private jet that Chai Kim arranged through organization resources he could still access before his uncle cut off his operational support. Dr. Robinson spent the entire flight reviewing medical protocols with the security team staying behind to monitor Minho, making sure they understood exactly what to do if complications developed. If his temperature spikes above 101, call me immediately. If he becomes unresponsive, call me. If literally anything seems wrong, call me. Do you understand? The security team, 3 of Chai Kim's most trusted people, nodded seriously. They understood that their lives depended on keeping Minho alive, because if he died, Chai Kim would kill them regardless of loyalty or circumstance. Seoul was cold when they landed. Chai Kim took Dr. Robinson directly to his father's compound in Gangnam, the fortified estate where the Jung family had operated from for 3 generations. His father, Jung Dae-won, was in his study, looking older than Chai Kim remembered. Cancer, probably. The family medical reports said father had months, maybe a year. Not long enough to secure succession properly. Eldest son, his father said in Korean. You were supposed to be in Chicago completing an assignment. Why are you here? Because the assignment was a setup. Uncle tried to use me to eliminate evidence of his betrayal. Chai Kim switched to English so Dr. Robinson could follow. This is Dr. Tabitha Robinson. She saved Minho's life after Uncle's people tried to kill him. She's also the witness Uncle ordered me to assassinate. His father's expression didn't change. Explain. Chai Kim explained everything. Minho's investigation of Chicago operations, the meeting with the detective who was killed, Minho being shot and brought to Dr. Robinson's clinic, the assassination order against her, the assault on the safe house when Chai Kim refused to complete the order. Minho is still in Chicago recovering from 3 gunshot wounds. Dr. Robinson performed emergency surgery that saved his life. She's here to testify about what Minho told her regarding Uncle's betrayal. His father looked at Dr. Robinson. You're a doctor. Why involve yourself in family business? I didn't involve myself. I was just doing my job treating a wounded patient. Your son, she gestured to Chai Kim, was sent to kill me for being a witness. I became involved when survival required understanding the politics that were trying to get me murdered. And you believe my son's accusations against his uncle? I believe your youngest son was shot while investigating internal betrayal. I believe your eldest son refused an assassination order because I'd saved his brother's life. I believe your brother is trying to eliminate anyone who can expose whatever he's doing in Chicago. Dr. Robinson met his father's eyes without flinching. But I'm a doctor, not an investigator. I can tell you what I witnessed. Interpretation is your job. Jung Dae-won smiled slightly. You're very direct. I'm very practical. Your family politics have endangered my life. I'm here to resolve that by providing testimony that proves I'm more valuable alive than dead. Smart. He turned to Chai Kim. Your uncle will claim you're lying to cover failed assassination. That you're working with this doctor to fabricate evidence against him. Which is why I need Minho to testify personally. But he's too injured to travel for at least another week. Then we have a week to determine if your accusations are true or if you've betrayed the family. His father stood, moved to his desk, pulled out a phone. I'm calling your uncle. Asking him to return to Seoul for family meeting. We'll resolve this accusation directly. The family meeting happened 2 days later. Uncle arrived from Chicago with his own security team, competent and calm in ways that suggested he'd already prepared his defense against Chai Kim's accusations. Nephew, he said in Korean, ignoring Dr. Robinson completely. You've made serious accusations. I hope you have evidence beyond paranoid interpretation of ambiguous events. I have testimony from Minho about meeting with a detective who had evidence of your betrayal. I have the fact that both Minho and that detective were shot during what you're calling a warehouse operation. I have Dr. Robinson's witness statement about what Minho told her while she was saving his life. You have hearsay from a wounded man and testimony from a civilian who has no understanding of our business. That's not evidence, that's desperation. Uncle turned to Young Dae-won. Brother, your eldest son failed an assignment and is fabricating accusations to avoid consequences. He's the one betraying family trust. Then explain why Minho was shot, Chae-kim challenged. He was in Chicago investigating your operations. Who shot him? How should I know? Chicago is dangerous. Your brother was probably targeted by rivals who recognized him as family. He was shot meeting with a detective you later killed. That's very convenient timing. Coincidence? Nothing more. They argued for hours, neither side able to prove their accusations definitively. Chae-kim had logic and circumstantial evidence. Uncle had plausible deniability and the advantage of controlling Chicago operations. It was stalemate until Dr. Robinson said something that changed everything. I have the detective's testimony recorded. Everyone stopped. Stared at her. What? Young Dae-won asked. The detective who died at my clinic. He was conscious for approximately 20 minutes before dying. He gave testimony implicating someone called Uncle Young in various crimes including protection racket fraud, skimming from family operations, and arranging the murder of a rival who was actually loyal to the Seoul family. She pulled out her phone. I recorded it because I thought it might be medically relevant. Turns out it's also legally relevant. She played the recording. The detective's voice, weak but clear, describing Uncle's crimes in detail. Naming dates, amounts, specific operations that could be verified. When it finished, the room was silent. Uncle's expression had gone from confident to murderous. That recording is fabricated. She's working with my nephew to frame me. The recording is timestamped with my clinic's security system, Dr. Robinson replied. It can be verified as occurring the night the detective died. I'm a doctor, I don't fabricate evidence. I document what I observe. Young Dae-won looked at his brother. You have anything to say? Uncle stood. I have nothing to say to accusations based on fabricated recordings from a woman who's clearly been manipulated by your son. Then you'll submit to investigation. I'll send auditors to Chicago, review your operations, verify whether the detective's testimony is accurate. I refuse. This is disrespect to my position in the family. I won't tolerate it. Then you're confirming the accusations. Because a loyal family member would welcome investigation that proves their innocence. Uncle's hand moved toward his weapon. Chae-kim moved faster, had his gun out and aimed before Uncle could draw. Don't, Chae-kim said quietly. Father's right here. Shooting him makes you definitively a traitor. Uncle froze. Then slowly raised his hands. You've chosen your side, nephew. Against family. Against loyalty. That's unforgivable. I've chosen truth over corruption. If that's against family, the family's already broken. Young Dae-won made a gesture. Security entered, disarmed Uncle, took him into custody. You'll be held pending investigation, he told his brother. If the accusations are false, you'll be released with apology. If they're true, you'll face family justice. Uncle was led away, still defiant, promising revenge against Chae-kim and Dr. Robinson both. When they were alone, Young Dae-won looked at his son. You did the right thing. But you've made an enemy who'll spend the rest of his life trying to destroy you. I know. But Minho's alive because Dr. Robinson saved him. I couldn't kill her to protect a traitor. I understand. Though it complicates everything. He turned to Dr. Robinson. You've provided valuable testimony. You'll be compensated and protected. What else do you need? I need to go back to Chicago and run my clinic. People depend on me for medical care they can't get anywhere else. You'll have security. Discreet but effective. Uncle's people might try revenge even with him in custody. I don't want security following me around Englewood. It'll scare my patients. Then you'll have security monitoring from distance. Non-negotiable. You're under family protection now whether you want it or not. Dr. Robinson looked at Chai Kim. Is he always this autocratic? It's where I learned it. Say thank you and accept the protection. You'll need it. She sighed. Thank you for the protection I didn't ask for but apparently need. Can I go back to Chicago now? After Minho's recovered enough to travel here. I want my youngest son home where I can ensure his safety. Young Dae-won paused. And I want you to continue his medical care. You've proven competent and trustworthy. I'll pay whatever you require. I don't need payment. I need to get back to my clinic and my patients. You'll do both. Coordinate with my son. He'll arrange logistics. Dr. Robinson was clearly exhausted. 2 days of travel, testimony, and navigating organized crime family politics had drained her. Chai Kim took her to his sole apartment, a penthouse that was comfortable but not ostentatious, designed for security rather than display. You can rest here. I'll arrange your return to Chicago tomorrow. Thank you. For not killing me. For protecting me. For somehow turning the worst night of my life into, whatever this is. Mutual survival. That's what this is. Is it? Or is it something more complicated? Chai Kim didn't have an answer for that. Because somewhere between being ordered to kill her and defending her with his life, Dr. Tabitha Robinson had become someone he couldn't categorize as just target or asset. She was someone who'd saved his brother. Someone who'd risked everything to testify honestly. Someone who was brilliant and brave and fundamentally incompatible with his life but somehow essential to it. Get some rest, he said instead of answering. We'll figure out the complicated parts later. Later. Right. Because this situation definitely needs to get more complicated. But as she fell asleep on his couch, exhausted from saving his family while endangering herself, Chai Kim realized the situation was already more complicated than he wanted to admit. Because he was falling for the doctor he'd been sent to kill. And that was going to create problems that no amount of family protection could solve. Minho recovered enough to travel to Seoul 3 weeks later. Dr. Robinson supervised the medical transport personally, maintaining monitoring throughout the flight, ensuring complications didn't develop. When they arrived at Young Dae-won's compound, Minho was weak but stable, able to testify coherently about what he'd discovered in Chicago. The investigation into Uncle's betrayal confirmed everything. Skimming operations, protection racket fraud, unauthorized deals with rivals. Decades of corruption that had cost the family millions while enriching Uncle personally. Uncle was executed by family order. Traditional, quick, final. Chai Kim was present for it because family tradition required the person who'd exposed betrayal to witness justice being done. He felt nothing watching his uncle die, no satisfaction, no regret, just cold professional detachment. Dr. Robinson was not present. She'd returned to Chicago immediately after ensuring Minho was stable, uncomfortable with being any more involved in family business than absolutely necessary. But she'd left something behind, a medical care plan for Minho's continued recovery, detailed instructions for the family's personal physicians, and a phone number where she could be reached if complications developed. Chai Kim found himself calling that number far more often than Minho's medical condition required. He's fine, Dr. Robinson would say, somehow knowing Chai Kim was calling about more than just his brother's health. Recovery is progressing normally. You don't need to check every day. I like hearing your voice. That's inappropriate. I'm your brother's doctor. You're also the person who saved his life and testified to protect my family. That creates connections beyond just medical care. Connections that can't go anywhere. You live in Seoul running criminal operations. I live in Chicago running a free clinic. We're incompatible. Incompatible doesn't mean impossible. It does when the incompatibility includes fundamental moral opposition to each other's life choices. You kill people for a living. I save them. That's not a difference you overcome with romantic interest. She was right. Chai Kim knew she was right. But he kept calling anyway. 3 months after Uncle's execution, Young Dae-won's cancer progressed to the point where succession had to be formalized. He called his sons together for the announcement. Min-ho will inherit the legitimate businesses. Chai Kim will inherit the family organization operations. You'll work together, Min-ho providing legal fronts and business acumen, Chai Kim providing security and operational execution. It was the division Chai Kim had expected. Min-ho was better suited for legitimate business. Chai Kim was too associated with violence to ever transition fully to legal operations. But, his father continued, I want both of you to start reducing the criminal operations. Transition more business to legitimate enterprises. Build something that lasts beyond violence and fear. That will take years, Min-ho said. Then start now. I won't live to see it completed. But you can build it for your own children. Young Dae-won looked at Chai Kim specifically. You can become someone other than what I made you. If you choose. That conversation haunted Chai Kim for weeks. Because his father was essentially giving him permission to transform, to become someone beyond professional killer, to build a life that included more than just executing orders. He called Dr. Robinson about it. Your father's giving you a choice, she said. Between continuing what you've always done and becoming someone new. That's significant. I don't know how to be someone new. I've been doing this since I was 19. It's all I know. Then you learn something else. People transform all the time. It's difficult but possible. Did you transform into someone new? I transformed from someone who wanted to be a prestigious surgeon at a famous hospital into someone who runs a free clinic in a violent neighborhood. That required becoming a completely different person than who I'd planned to be. But it was worth it because the person I became actually mattered to the communities I serve. How did you do it? Make that transformation? I decided what mattered more than comfort or prestige or safety. Then I built my life around that instead of around conventional success. She paused. What matters to you, Chai Kim? Beyond family obligation and professional competence? What actually matters? He thought about that for a long time. Min-ho matters. He's the reason I've stayed sane through 8 years of violence. Knowing he was safe, that he'd have a different life than mine, that not both of us were lost to the family business. What else? You. You matter. I don't know how or why, but you've become someone I think about constantly. Someone whose opinion affects my decisions. Someone he stopped. Love, she finished. You love me. And I love you too, which is terrifying because we're fundamentally incompatible and building anything together would require one or both of us to completely transform our lives. Chai Kim felt his heart hammering. You love me? Of course I love you. You're brilliant and loyal and you chose protecting me over obeying your organization. You called me every few days for 3 months just to hear my voice. You're trying to figure out how to become someone different because your father gave you permission to transform. Her voice was soft. How could I not love you? Then why do you keep saying we're incompatible? Because love isn't enough. You're a hitman. I'm a doctor. Those professions represent fundamentally opposed values. I can't build a life with someone who kills people, regardless of how much I care about them personally. What if I stopped? What if I transformed into someone who doesn't kill people? Can you? Really? After 8 years of professional violence, can you just become someone else? My father's asking me to. Wants me to transition family operations to legitimate business. It would take years, but it's possible. And you'd do that? Give up everything you've known for 8 years to become someone I could build a life with? I'd do it to become someone I could respect. Someone Min-ho could be proud of. Someone who matters beyond just executing orders efficiently. Chai Kim paused. The fact that transformation might also make me compatible with you is motivation, but it's not the only reason. Dr. Robinson was quiet for a long time. If you're serious about transforming, I'll help you. Not by abandoning my clinic or compromising my values, but by being someone who believes you can become better than what circumstances made you. That's all I can offer right now. That's enough. More than enough. Over the next year, Chai-Kim began the difficult process of transformation. He started transitioning family operations to legitimate business, working with Minho to identify which criminal enterprises could be shut down and which could be converted to legal alternatives. It was slow, complicated, and made enemies among organization members who profited from the criminal operations. But Young Dae-won supported it. Used his authority to force compliance, protect Chai-Kim from internal retaliation, make it clear that transformation was family policy not personal preference. Chai-Kim also started therapy, something virtually unheard of in Korean organized crime, but something Dr. Robinson insisted was necessary if he was going to process 8 years of professional violence. "You can't just stop killing people and pretend you're fine," she said during one of their video calls. "You need to actually work through the trauma and moral injury of what you've done. Otherwise you're just performing transformation without actually changing." She was right. Therapy was brutal, confronting every person he'd killed, every order he'd executed, every moment he'd chosen violence over alternatives. Processing the moral weight of 8 years of professional killing. But it was necessary. And slowly, painfully, Chai-Kim started becoming someone different. He flew to Chicago every few weeks, spent time with Dr. Robinson, volunteered at her clinic doing non-medical work like administrative support and basic maintenance. He wanted to understand her world, see what she valued, learn what mattered beyond criminal operations. "You're good at this," she said, watching him organize medical supply inventories with the same efficiency he'd once applied to weapons logistics. "You could actually work in legitimate operations if you wanted." "I'm considering it. Minho's been asking me to help with the family's technology investments. Apparently my strategic thinking translates to business analysis. Would you enjoy that?" "I don't know. But I'd enjoy building something instead of destroying things." That feels significant. They dated in ways that accommodated their completely different lives, her in Chicago running the clinic, him splitting time between Seoul and Chicago while transitioning family operations. It wasn't conventional or easy, but it worked because they were both committed to making it work. Young Dae-won died 14 months after the succession announcement. Cancer, peaceful, surrounded by family. At the funeral, Chai-Kim and Minho stood together, now formally leading the family organization and legitimate businesses respectively. "Father would be proud," Minho said quietly. "You've transformed more than he expected. More than I thought possible. I had motivation." Dr. Robinson doesn't compromise her values for anyone. "If I wanted to build something with her, I needed to become someone she could actually respect." "And are you? Someone she can respect?" "I'm becoming that person. Still have work to do, but I'm making progress." Dr. Robinson attended the funeral, supporting Chai-Kim through the grief of losing his father while navigating the complicated family dynamics of organized crime succession. Afterward, she stayed in Seoul for a week. They spent time together without the pressure of medical emergencies or family crises, just being with each other. "I love you," Chai-Kim said one evening. They were in his apartment, comfortable silence between them. "I love you and I want to build a life with you. Not immediately, not before I've finished transforming. But eventually. When I'm someone you can actually build a future with. I love you too. And I'm impressed by how much you've changed in the past year. You're becoming someone genuinely different." She moved closer. "But I need you to understand something, I'm never leaving Chicago. My clinic, my community, my work, that's non-negotiable. If we build a life together, it's in Chicago or it's long distance permanently." "I know. I've been researching Chicago business opportunities for the family's legitimate operations. Minho thinks we should expand to the US market. I could run those operations from Chicago, be based there instead of Seoul." "You'd leave Seoul? Move to Chicago for me?" "I'd move to Chicago to build something meaningful in a city that needs legitimate business investment. The fact that you're there is motivation, but it's not the only reason." He paused. "Though it's definitely the most important reason." Dr. Robinson kissed him. "You're very good at saying the right thing. I'm very motivated to make this work." 2 years after the night Chai Kim had come to kill her and found her saving his brother instead, Dr. Tabitha Robinson and Chai Kim Young built something neither had expected when they'd first met. A relationship based on mutual respect, honest transformation, and the understanding that love sometimes requires becoming someone completely different than who you were. Chai Kim moved to Chicago, established the Young family's American legitimate business operations, and continued the slow process of transitioning away from professional violence toward actual business leadership. Dr. Robinson continued running her clinic, expanding services to meet community needs, and occasionally providing medical consultation for Chai Kim's business interests when healthcare was relevant. They married in a small ceremony. Her family from Chicago, Minho from Seoul representing the Young family, friends from both their completely different worlds coming together. "This is the strangest wedding I've ever attended," one of Dr. Robinson's medical school colleagues said, watching Korean gangsters turned businessmen interact with inner-city Chicago doctors and community organizers. "Strange but perfect," Dr. Robinson replied. "Just like everything about us." 3 years later, they had a daughter. Named her Grace, after the grace that had saved both their lives when Chai Kim had chosen not to kill the doctor who was saving his brother. "She's beautiful," Minho said, holding his niece for the first time. "Father would have loved her." "Father would have been confused by her," Chai Kim corrected. American mother, Korean father, raised in Chicago by a doctor and a reformed hitman. She doesn't fit any traditional categories. The best people never do. Dr. Robinson watched her husband hold their daughter, watched him be gentle and loving and nothing like the professional killer he'd been when they'd met. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked later, when they were alone. "Transforming your entire life to become someone I could build a future with?" "Never. I regret the 8 years I spent being someone terrible. But I don't regret becoming someone better. Someone our daughter can actually be proud of. She'll be proud of you regardless. You're a good father." "I'm trying to be. That's all I can do, try to be better than what I was, build something meaningful instead of just destroying things." They stood in their Chicago home, looking at their sleeping daughter, building a life that neither had expected but both had chosen through difficult transformation. The hitman who'd been sent to kill the doctor. The doctor who'd saved his brother instead of dying. Both of them had become something different through choice, through love, through the understanding that who we are isn't fixed, it's something we build through decisions and transformations. And sometimes the most important transformations begin in the worst moments. Like finding the person you were sent to kill saving the person you love most. That kind of moment changes everything. Who we are isn't permanent. It's something we build through choices, through the people who matter to us, through deciding what we value more than comfort or convention. Chai Kim Young was a professional killer for 8 years. That's who he was, what he knew, the only identity he'd ever developed beyond being his father's son. He could have stayed that person forever, executing orders, living in the violence he'd been trained for. But finding the woman he'd been sent to kill saving his brother's life created a moment of choice. And he chose transformation, slowly, painfully, over years of difficult work, becoming someone who built things instead of destroying them. Dr. Tabitha Robinson could have hidden, disappeared, protected herself by abandoning the clinic and community that needed her. Instead she chose to stay, to testify, to risk everything for truth because running would have meant abandoning her values. Together, they proved that transformation is always possible when we're willing to sacrifice who we were to become who we need to be. That love built on mutual respect and honest growth creates something stronger than relationships based on convenience or compatibility. That the person who saves your brother's life might also save your own life by showing you that change is possible. Most importantly, they demonstrated that our worst moments can become turning points, places where we choose between continuing harmful patterns and becoming someone genuinely different. The hitman sent to kill the doctor found her healing his brother. That moment could have ended in violence. Instead it became the beginning of transformation. That's the choice we all face, continue being who circumstances made us, or transform into who we actually want to be. If you loved this story, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about transformation and the power of choosing to become better than what we were. Comment below. Have you ever had to transform who you were to build the life you wanted? or watched someone completely change through love and commitment? Let me know, I love hearing your stories. Thanks for watching, and remember, who you are today isn't who you have to be tomorrow. Transformation is always possible for those brave enough to choose it. Until next time.